4 young lives taken so soon and still no explanation of why. Xana Kernodle was born in Idaho on July 5th. Her obituary states that she was a talented gymnast as a child. During high school, she worked at Texas Roadhouse and went on to attend University of Idaho, where she majored in marketing. It states that Xana enjoyed EDM music, going to concerts, spending time with her friends, and going on family trips with her sister and father. When she was little, she loved spending time on her grandma and grandpa's farm and summers at the river. Xana was someone who was loved dearly by her family, friends, and classmates. She was a very positive and outgoing person. Her desire to live life to the fullest and contagious sense of humor has made a lasting impression on all those who knew her. Xana was just starting to become the woman she was destined to be, and the world will be a lesser place without her.
We are sexy!
Ethan Chapin's obituary states Ethan, a triplet, was born first at 4:43 p.m. on a beautiful Tuesday evening in October. He was born at a Swedish hospital in Seattle. Ethan loved life. He laughed continuously. He smiled when he woke up and was still smiling when he went to bed. He was kind to all and a friend to all.
Ethan was a triplet, all so close they even went to college together. They say Ethan was the comedian of the family and was a lover of country music and sports.
I mean, he just literally would play and do anything.
They wanted to clarify what they say is misinformation floating around.
The things that are being said are 100% not true. There's not drugs involved. There's not some weird love triangle.
Madison Mae Mogan was born on May 25, 2001, in Idaho. Her life from day one has been a blessing to her family and all that surround her. Maddie spent her first 2 years of life in Oregon and then moved with her family back to North Idaho. To say Maddie is loved by all is an understatement. Maddie was known for her ability to make others smile and laugh with her offbeat and hilarious sense of humor, and it was well known by all who knew her to never let her get hungry.
You think anyone would drink wine? I'll have some wine. I didn't even think of it, really, because, you know, I'm not a big drinker, but maybe I should have something.
You're not a big drinker?
Those who knew Xana and Ethan have all said that they were the perfect fit together. Ethan had just had a birthday, and Xana wrote on Instagram, "Happiest of birthdays to Ethan Chapin. Life is so much better with you in it. Love you." Kaylee Jade Goncalves was born in Concord, California on June 8, 2001. Her obituary states that she made friends wherever she went. She was social, quirky, contagious, and a little bit of a goofball. She loved to play pranks on her friends and family constantly, and she loved adventure. She was a hard worker, always having a full-time job on top of her studies, even in high school. She was strong, she was fair, she was tough, she was dedicated, she was beautiful, she was and she is love.
It's still very surreal. It's still very like out of body a lot of times. I would have never thought a year ago or even 6 months ago when that there was going to be a reason that Kaylee wouldn't be able to accept her own degree, that she wouldn't be here.
Family members from Maddie's family and Kaylee's family accepted their college awards.
Just a way to remember her. I'm for that. I can do that.
I think it's a way to show unity and respect for Kaylee and her hard work. I just feel that it's important for somebody to walk for her.
Maddie and Kaylee were best friends since 6th grade. They grew up together, they traveled together, they went to the same college, and eventually would become roommates. Maddie was an only child, but pretty much was the 6th sister in the Goncalves family.
She doesn't have sisters. We are her sisters. Karen just lost her only daughters.
And we're learning that another victim, Madison Mogan, had planned to spend Thanksgiving with the family of her boyfriend, Jake Schreiger. His mother says his world has been turned upside down.
Kaylee leaves behind her ex-boyfriend Jack, who takes care of the dog that they shared together, named Murphy. You can find posts from Murphy on Instagram. Here's one that says, "Missing my mom every day, but trying to live my best life. I got to admire her beauty in the sky this evening." Heartbreaking images like the last selfie Kaylee took, tagged at the King Road residence, Maddie's boots in the window of her bedroom, Xana's DoorDash order sitting by the sink, and the CCTV footage of Jack speaking with Maddie and Kaylee probably for the last time. Reading through the arrest affidavit, we can try to piece together what might have taken place that night. On the evening of November 12, 2022, Chapin and Kernodle are seen by BF at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12 to 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. BF also estimated that approximately 1:45 a.m. Chapin and Kernodle returned to the King Road residence. BF also stated that Chapin did not live in the King Road residence but was a guest of Kernodle. Goncalves and Mogan were at a local bar, the Corner Club, at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Goncalves and Mogan can be seen on a video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. on November 12th and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Goncalves and Mogan can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck. The Grub Truck live streams videos from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch. This video was captured by law enforcement. A private party reported that he provided a ride to Goncalves and Mogan at approximately 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck to the King Road residence. We know that Ethan went to a ball with his sister before meeting up with Xana that evening. And then Xana's father spoke with Xana on the phone around midnight, and she was still at home hanging out with Ethan.
I heard from her I think before we went out. I think midnight is the last I heard from her, and she was fine. They were just hanging out at home. Xana was hanging out at home with her boyfriend.
Cameras from around the town captured Kaylee and Maddie's last evening out together.
Hello. Hi. Welcome back.
James, I think I would like the carbonara.
Okay.
But if I have like a free grub truck on my app.
Oh, yep. So what you want to do is we'll actually do this.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That food truck video kills me because just knowing that what they were about to go home to, and they had no idea, and they were so happy.
Back again to this, he said that there was nothing out of the ordinary that night, that right now, or in that moment, that it was just an innocent conversation. Of course, the frats were bumping on a Saturday night, but here at the house, it was quiet. The rideshare driver said that he knows Adam. He knows he's a bartender, but Adam was not brought up once at all during that conversation. Again, no conversations about boys, drama, or any trouble. And he said they were not fearful. They weren't skittish in any way. He said that it was actually a rather innocent conversation from the beginning. And really, he said that was the center of their conversation. The entire 5-minute ride home was about their mac and cheese carbonara that they were planning on splitting when they got back to the house. He said that he's picked them up in the past, not only these two girls, but Xana as well. And he said that in the past they've talked about boys and drama and college life, but not this time around.
Moscow Police Department stated that they used a private party for a ride home from the Grub Truck at approximately 1:40 a.m. Olivia, Kaylee's sister, was one of the first to get into Kaylee's phone and narrow down a timeline of when they were last awake. This is where it's discovered that Kaylee called Jack 6 times between 2:26 and 2:44, and from 2:44 to 2:52, Maddie also called Jack 3 times, and then Kaylee makes a final call to Jack at 2:52 a.m., and Jack never picked up.
I was able to get a pretty good timeline on Haley and Maddie the night of, shortly before 3 a.m.
Reading directly from the affidavit, we know this. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Suspect Vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a fourth time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When Suspect Vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared it unsuccessfully attempted to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road.
The Latah County coroners conducted autopsies. and detectives have been provided with the results of those autopsies. We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as a homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims who were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times.
This was a brutal weapon. It sounds like it was a professional type weapon that couldn't break, and they weren't stab wounds. You know, they were like large punctures.
It became very clear early on that the 2 surviving roommates had critical information to offer.
The investigators are already talking to them and trying to get from them everything they can possibly remember about what they may have seen, what they may have heard, what their activities were, what they know about the activities of their housemates.
Instantly, not only the public, but family of the victims wanted to know what the surviving roommates heard and saw, and many wanted to know why their lives were spared.
I just had a question about the other 2 roommates who were there, and I just wonder, you know, wasn't something heard, or, you know, the surviving roommates that were there, they had to have heard something, they had to have the dog something.
The affidavit had this to say. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of the records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could have been Kernodle, as the cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. DM stated she looked out her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. DM stated she opened her door for the 3rd time after she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the backsliding door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Investigators found a latent shoe print. This is located during the second processing of the crime scene. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern just outside the door of DM's bedroom. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. Suspect Vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. Vehicle is next observed traveling southbound.
911 call came in for an unresponsive female, an unresponsive person. And so when officers arrived, they addressed that issue, and then as well, 2 additional people were found. Two individuals were found on the 2nd floor, and 2 individuals were found on the 3rd floor.
Everybody's like concern is what the hell is going on now? What the hell is going on now?
Suddenly, the quiet morning turned into chaos. First responders have reported that they smelled the scent of blood the second they walked in the house.
Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Morgan were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on the morning of November 13th. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home at approximately 1:45 a.m. 2 surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning. On the morning of November 13th, at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Moscow Police Department officers responded and located 4 victims, 2 on the 2nd floor and 2 on the 3rd floor.
We're just trying to process it. It's not a call that you think that you're going to have to speak with the funeral home directors and the FBI and have it hit national news.
They received the call their son Ethan Chapin had been killed. They got the call from their other kid.
Ethan was stayed the night at his girlfriend's house, who was one of 5 girls who lived in the home.
They say his girlfriend, Xana Chernobyl, was one of the other victims and that they were in the same room.
I said, it's not real, until the sheriff pulls up. And the sheriff showed up about 3 hours later. There's nothing you could do. Absolutely nothing. We were running around for hours just not knowing what was going on, what happened. Because we found out by people calling us. It's sleepless nights. It's feeling sick to your stomach. It's just being left in the dark.
Do you have any idea why this could ever happen to your precious baby?
Just nothing at all would ever make any sense of this.
If you could speak to the person responsible, like...
Oh, you never know how far something like this reaches, how many people it hurts, and how they're gonna have to live with this for the rest of their life. And it's something that'll never heal, you know. It's something you just would never wish on your worst enemy. She was so loved, and that she was the thing I was most proud of in my whole life. I'm glad that the one thing about this is that a lot of people get to see how beautiful of a person that she is. We're not going to have the service for her and Kaylee until after this is figured out. And but yeah, I'm just taking it one day at a time right now.
Police began to interview and track down everybody that was in that grub truck video.
The hard part of the investigation is that many of the people that we want to talk to have gone home because they're students, and so the timeline of this investigation has expanded because we have to travel, and so having those interviews at people's hometowns takes a little bit more time.
Rumors and misinformation was spreading on social media and mainstream media like wildfire. It didn't help when the mayor and the coroner were putting out statements before the police. In first reports, the mayor said that this was a crime of passion.
Now, this quote that's going around, a crime of passion, that has been seen in several media outlets published, he clarified that to us. The mayor is not saying it is a crime of passion. He says it could be a crime of passion. He also clarified that it could have been a burglary gone wrong. There's a couple different options right now, but again, complex scene, working through it to find out. Now, we'll show you what some video of this looks like earlier today as you're looking around at this area. The tape is still up.
One thing that the police did keep clear is that this was a targeted attack. But who was the target? And how do the public know that they're safe?
You've said that this was a targeted attack. Why not tell the public who was targeted? If it was multiple people, it would go a long ways to telling the public what you're looking for and who you're looking for, the type of person you're looking for. Why not do that to alleviate some of the fears out there in the community?
We don't want to put our investigation in jeopardy by releasing what we have, that we believe it was a targeted attack. I mean, to be honest, you're going to have to trust us on that at this point, because we're not going to release why we think that.
This interview with Aaron Snell from Idaho State Police was done before the information came out in the affidavit.
We have a list of the theories that have been spreading around social media, and I'm going to read them to you, and you just tell me yes or no. We're going to debunk them right now. Was there any notes written on a wall?
I think you're going to be asking about stuff that's involved in the case that I don't have knowledge of, so...
No?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I don't know if notes were written on the wall.
Kids were bound and gagged?
That is incorrect.
Roommates saw someone with a mask?
I don't have that knowledge.
This was somehow drug related?
I don't have that knowledge.
Ex-boyfriends or suspects?
I don't have that knowledge.
Kaylee and Madison called the boyfriend about 10 times before.
There were numerous calls that were made to a male.
It's all just shocking and scary. Like, I never would have thought that this would have happened here.
No suspects have been named or arrested.
We do know a little more now that we have the affidavit with statements from the surviving roommates in it. But early on, there was no target named, no suspect, no car identification. Students had left out of fear, and the public was left in confusion about this seemingly senseless crime. The affidavit gives us a small glimpse into the detective notes from the crime scene. Names will be read as stated in the affidavit by Officer Smith. Smith and I then walked upstairs to the second floor. Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room, was Xana Kernodle's room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body later identified as Kernodle's laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male later identified as Ethan Chapin. Chapin also deceased. I then followed Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. The third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Goncalves' room. As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in a single bed in the room. Both Goncalves and Mogan were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-Bar USMC and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor and Sigma stamped on the outside of it. Idaho State Lab later located a single source of a male DNA suspect profile left on the bottom snap of the knife sheath.
We talked with the Moscow mayor, Art Bedke. He tells us that it's just the start of an investigation. He tells us that this scene is complex. It's going to take time to work through. He said the Idaho State Police is going to be bringing up a mobile unit to the area as well to sort of sort through this more complex crime scene, he says. He says there's no ongoing threat at the time. Wanted to make that clear and echo what we've heard from police, but there is no suspect. There's nobody in custody right now in relation to this. And we talked with a neighbor who lives right next door to them. She said she knew nothing the night of, but police cars the day after sort of woke them up around noon.
They still, though, aren't releasing who called 911. Police were not called until noon, and they arrived to this home with the front door wide open.
The police were adamant about not releasing the 911 call or the dispatch call, but that did not stop the media from asking the police why. It's also caused a lot of rumors and misinformation surrounding the 911 call.
I think it'll be released when the prosecution believes that we can release that. That may be at trial. That may be before then.
We're looking for a knife.
I learn more on the news and on TV than they have said to me. I've just been dealing with my family, and we've just been absorbing this shock. We needed more answers. I may be candid in saying this, but I think that they were at a bar. Their father conveyed to me that he thought that they were at the bar at that night. So, yeah, I mean, that's what college kids do on the weekends.
They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence. It's all digital information.
They're telling us that there's so much evidence that it's going to take a lot of time to process it all. This wasn't like a pinpoint crime. This person was sloppy. He did whatever. When I say he, obviously you can't say that. That's just me. But he made a mess, and there's a mess there, and they're going to have to go through that point by point, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why they reached out to other facilities to help them with that lab work.
They do have a mobile unit on site that they said that they're able to really expedite things with this mobile unit. Hopefully, they're reaching out to other DNA processing type companies such as like 23andMe to get involved. They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence. And evidently today with the new task force, the new FBI task force on site, they said that they were able to pull a ton of evidence from the house today.
Yeah.
And they're processing that.
So
it just takes time.
Do you have any clue that they may be unsafe on the campus? Was there any indication?
Absolutely not. And if they were, we would have told Kaylee to come home immediately. And same with Maddie. Our son went to that college. No, absolutely not.
My daughter was aware of her environment.
Very aware.
She turned her camera on. She would film when she thought somebody was following her out of a mall parking lot or a grocery store. She was very aware that she was a pretty girl and that, you know, it could attract some problems. So she was alert. She was a streetwise child.
She herself was a web sleuth, literally through and through. You know, listen to, you know, which is just so ironic and just so surreal in all of it. You know, just very, you know, sad for families when she'd hear about this type of stuff happening. Like, Mom, did you hear about that? Or Mom, did you hear about that? And,
track of it.
you know, and she was very well of her surroundings, very well. I mean, she would think somebody was following her and she would call me and say, Mom, I think there's somebody following me. And I'm like, well, Kaylee, call the police, you know, and then she'd say, oh, never mind. They just turned into 7-Eleven. You know, just, I mean, she was aware, you know, and very aware. And she locked her doors at night and she locked her car. Kaylee was home, had just been home. So we are so thankful that she had just been home for a week and a half. She just bought a brand new vehicle for herself, her first vehicle. She had planned a trip. She was planning on backpacking across Europe for the month of January, starting her new job in February with this internship that she had done, wound up offering her a full-time, very well-paid position that she was very excited to take. And she was with us for the last week and a half. She went home Friday to literally go show off her new vehicle. And we will never stop looking for who killed him.
Kaylee's parents explained the phone calls going back and forth between Jack, Maddie, and Kaylee.
We love Jack. Absolutely love Jack. We stand behind Jack 1,000%. Jack was Kaylee's boyfriend for many years. They just recently broke up. There was no animosity at all. It was a breakup on Kaylee's point. It was not, they still talked every single day. Kaylee just thought that she needed a little break. They were on ends of getting back together. Kaylee talked to Jack the whole time she was here for that week and a half.
One of her last messages, she reached out to Jack and said, Jack, get back to me. And he didn't. She goes, we share a dog together, which they did. She's like, you need to reach out to me. So
please come over. Please come over. She was wanting Jack to come over. Jack is not, they're wasting their time with Jack. And Jack is just as distraught as we are.
There was nothing. We have no updates for you.
There was no update. They needed me to sign a waiver form so that they could investigate something.
Some mail.
That was mail related.
And it gets tough day after day after day. I mean, every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something. And you see these, oh, there's a break in the case. And it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives.
They have told us that it was targeted, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically, and they said, we'll try to get that information to you. And they got back to us a day or so later, and they said, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not targeted, or they think the whole house was targeted.
I'll cut to the chase. Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's,
they don't,
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and be an alpha. Be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just going to say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that. Put certain people between you and the officers that are making things happen, and those people are like lawyers, and they don't want to say anything, and they don't have the guts to come up and be alpha and be like leaders and say, hey, we might say something that's wrong. We're going to take that hit. So the officers, I have no doubt he's working as hard as he can. But somebody isn't communicating. There's nothing being released. It seems like they're trying to suppress the story. We want to put rewards out. They're like, don't do that. Yeah, I get it. Your town doesn't want to have reward posters posted all over when you come and you do your rush. You're not going to get a lot of students if they see those things. But this community is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the streets.
The horrific details of everything, them just having a good time, going home and going to bed, and that's happening to them.
Your best friend crawling into bed.
Just crawling in bed.
Every girl in America knows what that's like.
The boogeyman doesn't, you know, meet you at McDonald's. I mean, the boogeyman comes and snatches you out of your bedroom.
I can't just lay in my bed and do nothing. That's not the way I raised my family. That's not the way I raised my girls and my son. You don't be a victim. You stand up for yourself and you do everything in your power to make sure people hear you. And they're gonna hear Kaylee. They're gonna hear Maddie. They're gonna hear these.
The other two as well.
Yes. I'm careful saying anything about them because I need to be careful because I can't speak on somebody else's child. But these two girls, I'm not trying to be a glory hound, but these two girls, I'm going to do what I can do, and we're not being victims. We're going to fight. We're going to figure out how to make sure that we hold everybody, accountable, and we keep eyes and attention on this and get this thing resolved.
Are there questions you have unresolved from the police that you feel like, hey, just throw me a bone here and let me know?
For sure. I mean, alibis, just share the alibi. If you're not sharing an alibi, to me, it tells me that you're not 100% confident that it's going to stick, or you have somebody who's going to come forward and say, hey, I don't know what he told you or that person's alibi was, but I have this information. I have something. So if you don't share the alibi, it makes it a little bit harder for us to just let those go. And I've said it before, I don't want to make victims out of just bystanders and witnesses. So I just share those things, and that would help. I'm not going to go sleep in my bed knowing that I could get up and I could go to town and I could do something. And I'm not going to go away, and I hate to be a pain, but as a father, I just can't even sleep thinking that I could be doing something. So they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me, he doesn't have to go upstairs. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She didn't call 911. She wasn't saying anything along the lines of like she had heard something or she was in fear. So I'm just putting the dots together. As far as the investigators, they're very tight-lipped and they're keeping everything close to their vest. And I understand that. And I'm probably not the right person to share all these things with. So I'm just trusting them that their case is super tight and they don't really need to reach out to the community. And, all the evidence is right there in that home. But if the evidence isn't there, that's the part that I'm concerned. And then there's layers of separation. The communication is not the same as the boots on ground. All the officers that are out on the streets, those guys are working their tails off. But there's a different person who does the communication. And that guy's sitting with the lawyer, and that guy's sitting there telling him, you got to protect things that are beyond the case, like the town and the community and the college itself. Those don't matter as much to me. I mean, I definitely don't want to hurt them, but I have an agenda, and I'm not going to let that story fall apart just because they don't want wanted posters, on their next rush of students that come into town.
Steve is then asked in this interview if he can share who the target was.
I can. I asked for permission to do just that, and they said no. I probably disclosed information that they wish I wouldn't have said.
It seems like the word targeted has had different understandings for different people who are listening, and perhaps isn't the best word to use. The bottom line is whoever's responsible for this is still at large. That can't be changed. My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence, but that's all that they can offer at this point.
Can they say whether they were looking at whether the person responsible was looking at a particular individual?
I don't think they can say that at this point. They are still, that's part of the investigation, is trying to determine who might have been the target.
Perhaps one of the most stunning facts that have come out in this case about the accused is that Kohberger's phone pinged back at the crime scene at 9 in the morning. We also know as a fact that the 911 call came in at 11:58, which leaves me confused with these next few statements about an open door. A neighbor told media and police that they seen the door open at around 8:39 in the morning. Many thought that perhaps it was the surviving roommates when they rushed out of the house, but the 911 call didn't come in until hours later.
The front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning, was wide open around 8:39 a.m. 8:39 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside.
There's no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
There were stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds.
Well, there was a lot of blood.
Were they found in beds?
Yes. There were multiple stab wounds. The fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area. Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death. There were multiple stab wounds, yes, on them. Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound. You know, it was early in the morning. Seems likely that maybe they were sleeping.
Except for Xana, which we know had just ordered DoorDash and was up using the TikTok app, according to the police notes. After the coroner made several statements to different networks, she then came out with a statement to CBS stating that earlier reports stating that all victims were in their beds were not accurate.
Investigators have learned that a physical struggle took place before the murders happened.
Reports of a struggle that took place had us wondering if it was Xana and Ethan.
Police said it appeared to be a targeted attack, but did not explain why.
Xana's room had a coded lock?
I believe it did. Her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before. Yes, that he had fixed it or something. But yeah, he said that he had fixed it the week before. In the main lock he was referring to. I'm not sure. Just from him telling me that when we were speaking. So that's the weekend before, and he went to meet Ethan's parents. And, went to check on Xana, and it was Dad Week at WSU for Jasmine, so he was over there.
Kernodle says there's one thing the autopsy shows for certain. Xana, a strong-willed girl, fought her killer until the very end.
One victim, Xana Kernodle, had defensive wounds according to her father.
Bruises, maybe hurt by the knife. She's a tough kid. The door locks with the number code. Every time you open it, like I had to go around the house to get in the house because of the number code. So they either knew that or they just kind of went around and found the slider open.
You know, how you would enter the house when you went there? Did you go through this sliding door that we're hearing about, or did you have to use a code to enter the house to visit Xana and Ethan?
There were 2 points of entry to the house. Most frequently, people used the door that was located on the basement, and then you took a set of stairs to get to the main floor.
And was it your experience that you would that you knew the code, or that people knew the code, or was it, did you have to use the code to enter the house?
When I would go there, the code wouldn't be activated, so we could just open the door and get in.
The surviving roommate, Dylan, put out this statement to the news.
I know somewhere Xana and Ethan are together, keeping each other company, watching us, and telling us it's okay and that we have each other. Maddie and Kaylee, the inseparable duo, the 2 best friends that were like sisters.
Oddly enough, the Mark Verman from the OJ case came out stating that Kaylee had a stalker. Again, this is the Mark Verman who OJ's defense claimed lacked credibility, but he was also able to gather information from surviving roommates as well.
Yes, that Mark Furman from the O.J. Simpson trial now lives in Idaho.
Their story was they heard partying, they heard noise, but they just, as usual, said, you know, there's partying going on, and they locked the door. I talked to one student, and I agree with this. It was twice removed from the person that said it, Kaylee, but Kaylee 2 months ago complained about a stalker.
Now say they identified an incident involving one of the victims, Kaylee Gonzalez, at a local business, which may have explained a reference to a stalker she made to friends and family. According to police, in mid-October, 2 males were seen inside a local business. They parted ways, and one male appeared to follow Kaylee inside the business. And as she exited to walk towards her car, the guy turned away, and it did not appear he made any contact with her. Detectives actually contacted both the guys and learned that the two were apparently attempting to just pick up women. Now, police have said there's no evidence the men took part in the murders.
I mean, did she ever talk to you about a potential stalker or somebody that made her uncomfortable?
She did.
She did.
We're trying to determine if it's just a singular incident or if there was a broader based stalking incident.
So there was a little bit of a miscommunication. Initially last week, it was reported that Kaylee's family said there was a stalker. I sat down with them Friday night, and they were very clear. They do not know of a specific stalker. Kaylee never told them of a specific stalker. They said that, you know, is it possible someone was following her around? Yes, it's possible, but they didn't know of anything specific.
Moscow PD says it analyzed a reported incident from October and discounted claims that Kaylee had a stalker.
Even a manager from the local vape shop came out claiming that he had heard them complain about a stalker.
Police spokesman Robbie Johnson confirmed detectives are investigating the manager's claims.
Definitely looking into any reports of a stalker or that type of behavior around any of the victims.
So was there or wasn't there a stalker for Kaylee? Hopefully this is a detail that comes out in trial.
You can feel it here in Moscow. It's just a very heavy cloud. It's a hard place to be.
A lot of people have been interested in this Golden Doodle Murphy. Is it possible that he was in the room, that he had evidence on him because he immediately went to the Humane Society? People were concerned that he might not have been tested.
Police also saying tonight that a dog was found belonging to Kaylee in the home by officers, but that it had not been found in a room where the crimes had been committed. No evidence was found on the dog, and there is no indication it even entered the crime scene.
Police come out asking for information from anyone who knows anything about Ethan and Xana's whereabouts before the crime took place.
And police asking the public to help them fill in key gaps in the timeline. Now, part of that timeline includes a party at a fraternity house.
The flag is at half-staff at the University of Idaho Sigma Chi fraternity house. Sigma Chi President Reed Offson says the fraternity is cooperating with the investigation.
I knew them. Ethan was always in our house. Xana was a good friend before, Ethan even came up. But that's all I really want to talk about right now because I actually have class here in like 15 minutes.
Does anyone know where they were during that timeline? Like there's still this big chunk where...
As of right now, we've told Moscow PD, Idaho State Police, and the FBI all we know. We're kind of leaving it up to them to piece it together. Obviously, we don't have the utilities or resources to do it on our own, so we're just putting full faith in the officers and in the detectives doing it. But that's all I really know right now.
Are there any cameras around?
Not on the property.
You said Xana was a friend and Ethan was a member of the house? Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Just real charismatic, real funny, real goofy. Always putting a smile on other people's faces. So yeah, when I heard they started dating, I was like, that's a perfect fit.
These guys have their hands full. I wanted to go out there and tell everyone that we support the Gonzalez family, support the local police officers, so much so that we want them to be able to work on this case. I know that this is way over the normal workload that they normally have. Plus, they have patrols. They have to patrol now. This guy's not caught. So, there were some rumors that I called these officers a coward. That was not for these officers. That was for a lawyer that was standing in between what the officers would like to release and what is actually being released. And I called that individual. And this was just about coming forward and saying that the profile is a male. I feel like at a month we can rule that that's not going to hurt the case. It's pretty clear. Even, the coroner said this was a very strong individual. 2 people had defensive wounds, overpowered those people. So I'm just trying to steer the conversation into a way. So I have another son. I have another person who's going to school there, and I don't want him walking around those streets if it's not safe. So, we know as a family what we're looking for. And, if they see an individual looking a certain way, I'm telling my kids, steer clear of that.
A lot of speculation and a lot of scrutiny is going into the police and their investigative work. After all, they still have no suspects and no persons of interest, at least as far as they've told us. I asked the police some of these tough questions about what they're doing at this moment and didn't get much of a response back. However, along the way, I learned that could all be part of a greater strategy.
With still barely any answers given to the public, web sleuths started combing through the victims' social medias, and some even requested public records to get some body cam footage that took place at that King Road residence. Maybe we could find a stalker or something suspicious in any of that. What we did discover is the house seemed very accessible by people who didn't live there.
But
yeah.
Madison Mogan? Yeah. Madison Mogan? Okay, she does live here?
She is at the club. She's 21. I'm just going to bed. I have a couple friends over, but this is my ID.
Have you talked to Maddie tonight?
Yes, I have. Oh. She's at the corner club.
Okay. Did she tell you anything about anything that happened earlier or anything like that?
Honestly, not really. I've just been here the past hour.
Okay. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
I assume noise.
Noise, yeah. So I'll tell you the same thing I told them. You probably know the drill, right?
Actually, no.
Oh, okay. So usually, at least for me, I'll give you a verbal warning.
Okay.
Once I have neighbors calling in, your music's too loud, you're disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
No. Sounds good. I'd much rather you spend that $300 on beer or something fun than a noise ticket, right?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Don't do it again.
Yep.
I'd hate to come back in a few hours and then have to issue that. So, any questions for me?
No. Investigators say they still believe this is a targeted attack, but the killer is still out there.
Finally, the break in the case that we'd all been waiting for, and the press release identified the vehicle of somebody that they wanted to talk to as soon as possible.
They brought in an army of experts and FBI support to comb through new tips about the white Hyundai Elantra seen in the immediate area in the early morning hours of November 13th.
We'd like to know who was in that car that night, where it might be now. It could be in a different state. We have resources across the country that are ready to jump on in any information we can provide on that and follow those leads and talk to whoever is in that car.
With new details, authorities re-interviewing residents, bringing back memories.
This is a complex case. What I can tell you is this case is not going cold. We're still building that picture. Our end goal is to bring somebody to justice.
We're struggling. I'm trying to do everything in my power to help them, and we're trying to collaborate with them.
We have a much clearer picture of what occurred that night. Anybody that might know the location of that Hyundai that was used that evening, we think the occupants of that vehicle have important information to provide to us.
We know it was there.
28-year-old Bryan Kohberger has been taken into custody and served a warrant for 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was arrested early this morning in eastern Pennsylvania in the Pocono Mountains, about 100 miles north of Philadelphia. Police reveal he was a PhD student at Washington State University, which is a short drive across the state line from the University of Idaho. According to the school's website, Kohberger is listed in the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology.
We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews.
The slayings initially mystified law enforcement, with investigators unable to name a suspect for weeks. Police say the weapon used is still at large, but the case broke open after law enforcement asked the public for help, finding a white sedan seen near the home around the time of the killing.
Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward.
All 4 victims were close friends and part of the University of Idaho's Greek system.
Federal investigators observed him in Pennsylvania around 4 a.m. as he discarded garbage in his neighbor's trash bin just days before his arrest. Police linking Kohberger to the murders by collecting his father's DNA from trash outside the family home and matching that to DNA they say they discovered on the button snap of a knife sheath that was on the bed next to the body of victim Madison Mogan.
The search warrant confirms that police had Bryankohberger under surveillance for a few weeks before they made their arrest. They raided his parents' home in Pennsylvania around 1:30 in the morning. At this point, information in the case started escalating quickly. After they completed the search warrant on Kohberger's parents' house, they also released body cam footage from 2 pullovers that took place while Bryan was driving home to Pennsylvania with his father from Washington.
Hello, how you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're scanning early.
What's WSU?
Yeah, I go to the university basically. There was an incident that was occurring up there. There was a shooting incident. That is SWAT team and everything.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where?
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
We're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours to drive. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
there was a man shooting and everything.
Where? Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
Oh.
PhD in criminal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
No, this happened this morning. About an hour and a half ago, we're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's 2 shootings because they did shoot somebody.
I see.
And then we don't know about that actually. They were there with a shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay?
Oh,
all right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
State police got your license and registration. I stopped you, man, when you were driving by me there. You're a little too close to the back of that semi. You're about 1 car between you and the back of this trailer. We're about 1 car going 10 miles an hour. So if you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour, we're about 6 or 7 cars. Oh, you guys did?
Yeah, and you said that. So.
You guys stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. He thought you guys were following too closely? Okay.
What happened at WSU when my son goes to school and shooting
today? Well, I'm not going to give you guys another ticket or warning if you just got stopped. Just make sure you give yourself plenty of room, okay? So like I said, it's all about how fast you're going, okay? So if you're going 10 miles an hour, you only need 1 car. Or if you're going, so the speed limit here is 7. If you're going 70 miles an hour, you need 7 car miles. Yeah. That's the easy way to explain that. Yeah. Okay. It's really in the B&B mail, it says 2 to 3 seconds. All right. You guys have a safe trip. Where y'all heading?
Thank you so much for
long haul. You guys scared of airplanes? Did you? Okay. All right, well, hey, peace out, safe trip. Thank you.
We think that they may have been attempting to see if he was going to bolt, see if he was going to, you know, put the accelerator to the floor and just take off. And, you know, twice.
When Bryan was under surveillance for 4 days before his arrest, law enforcement said during that time he was seen putting trash bags in neighbors' garbage bins and cleaned his car inside and outside, not missing an inch.
Chief James Fry confirming to ABC News this white Hyundai Elantra seen in surveillance video from a nearby gas station the night of the murders belongs to Kohberger, saying he was the only person inside. The car now in police custody after being taken from Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania.
I want to check all of those little ridges on the foot pedal that he uses. I want to check where he might open up a glove compartment, the underside of that. I want to check every nook and cranny of every piece of that vehicle, because I believe there is no way that with all the blood involved in this case, he would have been able to clean that vehicle thoroughly. I think this is going to be a bit of a treasure trove for law enforcement, because I don't think, no matter how good of a cleaner he might think he is, assuming he committed this crime, a narcissist often believes they've done a perfect job at everything, including cleaning, but they're going to leave those little specks in nooks and crannies that they don't think about.
Before Bryan gets extradited back to Idaho from Pennsylvania, we see his family here supporting him in court. Details about the arrest came out, and apparently Bryan was wearing gloves at the time.
Dressed in shorts and a shirt and wearing latex medical type gloves, and apparently was taking his personal trash and putting it into a separate Ziploc baggie. Trash pull that was done days before recovered DNA profiles, but not from him, only from his family members. Certainly for the investigation and the interest of the investigators in building the case layer by layer, that was a significant find. It could very well explain some of the other aspects of the case from Idaho, some of the lengths that a person would go to avoid having their DNA left behind when they know or should have known that there was an investigation underway. I would be keen on the shoes, the size of the shoes, the comparison to any shoe impressions that might have been recovered at the scene.
But we're told the cheek swab is key.
Something that they could compare to the DNA obtained, I believe, on the snap button for the sheath of the knife.
Anonymous, please. He was arrested only 40 minutes from our home near our aunt and uncle's. Went to school with my cousins. A good friend of ours was one of the cops who has been following him the last couple of days. He coaches with my husband and was telling him all these crazy details. He followed him into a Giant, which is a local grocery store, and he wore gloves the entire time. He's not stupid and has been very careful. Also, he's been stalking them for weeks. Not sure if they ever interacted, but his cell phone pings followed their every move for weeks. So freaking scary and disturbing. I've been so invested in this case the last 6 weeks, and to find out how close he is to us and that one of our friends found him and arrested him is just crazy. Kohberger lands in Idaho, and experts try to explain the link between him and the crime.
Bryan Kohberger in that orange jumpsuit walking with law enforcement. Let's listen.
When the affidavit came out, I was absolutely shocked with how rich in information it was. We don't normally see something like this, and particularly as it went to DNA. You know, they talk about the button clip that's on this sheath that was left behind. It was found, obviously, in the bed adjacent to the victims. And that's probably going to arise, that identification is going to arise from what's referred to as touch DNA. Okay, let me kind of break this down. You're talking about touch DNA. which for all of us, you know, if you have dry skin, you slough dead skin cells all of the time. And so in this particular case, he would have left potentially several elements that they could identify there, these dead skin cells. And you only find a partial strand of DNA in that. But they did find something there that tied directly back to him. And the fact that it was in such close proximity to the bodies might even be an indication as a starting point to when all of this happened. And so this is very powerful information. And it's not necessary that we have the knife at this point.
His first appearance in court had a lot of people talking about his creepy eyes.
For attorney at public expense, I do find that you are indigent and do qualify for court-appointed counsel. I will appoint Ms. Taylor to represent you in this case.
A citation from Latah County Sheriff's Office shows Bryankohberger was stopped by police on the 21st of August for failing to wear a seatbelt. The traffic stop took place at around 11:40 p.m. It is not clear what Mr. Kohberger was doing in the area at the time, just 1.7 miles and a 5-minute drive from the home on King Road. Is this when the stalking began on that house? I'm curious to know if there's body cam footage from the seatbelt violation in August. We also know that there was another incident in October where Brian was pulled over here.
Hello, I am Officer Langus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You were in the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you're on the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep.
Do you have the registration and insurance?
Yes. Let me just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck like in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done been? Just
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington, so just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation, and then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, and then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, like right before I made the turn, there was someone who like made a right, and they didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up and not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light. So, or you're going to be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one in front. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, I can find it for you. Yeah. One second. That looks good on a Hyundai. I don't see Pennsylvania registration like at all. Okay, let's see. Expires November 22nd or 2022. Okay. And
yeah, one of those is actually.
Yeah, okay, that looks good. I'll hand that back to you. I'm just gonna go check your info. I'll try to find that RCW, the law for you, and I'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I found it. So I don't know what in Pennsylvania where you go to find laws, but in Washington it's called the Revised Code of Washington. So I'll try to turn my brightness up, but it's just called an RCW, so it's RCW 46.61.202, so it's no driver shall enter an intersection unless there is significant space on the other side of the intersection to accommodate the vehicle he is operating without obstructing the passage of other vehicles, despite any traffic control signal indications to proceed. So you had a green light, so you're thinking you can go, but you're blocking the intersection. Yeah. So that's, if you're ever curious in any laws in Washington, just Revised Code of Washington. So I'm not writing a ticket or anything like that today. I understand you're from Pennsylvania, but in the future, don't proceed through the intersection. You can't get stopped for that alone, unless you can clearly just clear it right away.
Okay.
So
then basically, I understand.
You're just supposed to wait behind the white line. Drivers do it all the time, but
it never even occurred to me that that was actually something wrong. But well, except for the fact that I was blocking the crosswalk, which is what I went through.
And states vary from laws. Like Pennsylvania might not even have that law, but in Washington we do.
I'm actually just from a very rural area, so we just don't have crosswalks.
Oh.
Unless I visit an area where there are crosswalks, and then it's not very frequent.
Yeah.
I do apologize if I was asking you too many questions about the law. I wasn't trying to
No, not at all. Like, I understand you're not from here, so if you don't, a lot of people don't know a bunch of laws. Like, I only know it because this is what I do. But yeah, if you're ever curious on any more laws, just RCW, and they can be hard to read because it's in like legal language. But hope that helps.
Definitely.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Definitely. You too.
Thanks.
Affidavit also said Kohberger's phone pinged near the girl's home on King Road in Moscow at least 12 times in the months leading up to the murders.
And close enough that he was touching their Wi-Fi. His phone was touching their Wi-Fi.
To be honest, I think that that's been the hardest part of this, is to sit back and look at the totality of it. When my sister was FaceTiming me about a new egg bites recipe, he was planning his next visit to the home. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult not to wish that you had done more, wish that you had known more. But it's just the first step. A lot more evidence will come out. And I'm confident that Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, and the FBI have the right person. And I thank them from the very bottom of my heart.
When you go through the timeline in the affidavit and see all the dates of when the cell phones pinged, you can actually go back and think of your conversations from those specific times.
Yeah, you know, the August 21st date, I can go back and remember the conversation that I had with Kaylee that day, and how normal everything was, and the fact that we had no idea, she had no idea, I had no idea that true evil was genuinely watching them.
Nancy Grace visits Idaho in the home, and rumors about how Bryan knew the victims start spreading. Reports have stated that he tried to reach out to one of them on Instagram and they never responded. Until the trial, this is all speculation.
I'm here behind the murder scene right now, and you can see straight into the girl's place. This is the parking lot we've been hearing about, right behind their home. I mean, it's right here. It's a lot tighter and a lot smaller than you think. And just looking up here, I feel like you can see straight into their home. These girls never had a chance against a predator.
Yeah, when we were talking right here, he said, "Have you heard about these murders?" And I was like, yeah, it's because it just happened. Like, there was like a few articles. There was not much detail on it at all. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, I read like an article. There's not much about it. He's like, yeah, it seems like they don't have any leads. And I was like, yeah, I guess not. And then he's like, yeah, they think it's a crime of passion. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. I've read one article. I'm not really sure what they're thinking. And then he kind of left it at that. But he did bring that up. Like, it was a normal conversation.
2 weeks before the slayings of 4 University of Idaho students last November, the man now accused of killing them sent a series of messages to one of the victims on Instagram. An investigator familiar with the case tells People in late October, an account that authorities believe belonged to the killer, accused killer, sent a greeting to one of the female victims, the source says. When he didn't get a reply, he sent several more messages to her. He slid into one of the girls' DMs several times, but she didn't respond. The source tells People basically it was just him saying, "Hey, how are you?" But he did it again and again.
According to the affidavit, from 5:25 to 5:27, the car is seen on 5 cameras. His phone also connects to Wi-Fi back at the crime scene at 9:12 in the morning. Later in the afternoon at 1:04 p.m., CCTV and a ping place him buying stuff at a grocery store. We still don't know exactly what he purchased. Bryan's public defender from Pennsylvania spoke out about Bryan and his interactions with him. A bunch of other people came forward as well. We even see in his yearbook information that as a sophomore, Bryan in a law enforcement class and apparently wanted to become an Army Ranger.
Now we get to know who this individual is. We're focused now on who he is. That's why we keep asking people, send us information. If you've known him, if you've dealt with him at any point in time, this is now where we become more laser focused on one thing, and we're going to find out as much information as we can, but we still need our community and people's help.
Man, he's an intelligent man, Bryan. He was easy to talk to. He was aware of the situation. Really, it was a great conversation that we had given the circumstances of everything involved.
You say that he told you he was shocked that he was arrested. How so and why?
I believe he was shocked by the moment that the police broke his door down, had guns in his face. He was unaware that that was going to happen, and he was really shocked by the arrest. He wasn't expecting it, obviously.
To which he said, "I will be exonerated." Those were not your words, but do you agree with his assessment?
I agree. That's what he had said to me, that he believed that he would be exonerated, which I believed implicitly that he was innocent of the crimes. He said he was eager to be exonerated, which I believed him to mean that he believed he was innocent. I wasn't judging the case at that point in time. I didn't have the affidavit of probable cause. I knew none of the facts. And I didn't ask Bryan about any of the facts or circumstances surrounding the case either.
Once you saw the affidavit, what do you think now?
I said from the beginning, I read it 4 times through before I think I got most of it soaked in. I felt that it was a strong circumstantial case that's likely to possibly get stronger based upon other evidence that I would expect. But there's certainly holes. Whether or not the prosecution can close those holes is another story for another day. I think the biggest concern is obviously his DNA on the sheath of the knife that was found in the room next to the Mogan body.
Do you have any reason to believe that it could have been somebody else, that he wasn't alone, that the man who was shot in the shootout at Washington State University, the security guard, is he relevant?
I don't have any knowledge of another person being involved. Again, I never asked Bryan any of the facts and circumstances surrounding the case. I made that clear from the moment I sat down with him that I was simply there to represent him for the extradition proceedings, and that his attorney in Idaho would really be taking the case over and would want to hear his story first. It was certainly a unique situation for me. I've never had it like this quite before, where such serious charges an individual was facing. But I really wanted to make sure that he understood that I didn't want to know about the facts and circumstances. And I did cut him off several times before he was able to tell me anything about the case.
He asked when he was arrested, we are told, has anyone else been arrested? Does that sound right to you?
That's my understanding of what's out there. When I spoke to Bryan about what he said to the police, and he did speak to police for approximately 5 to 15 minutes before invoking his Miranda rights. he couldn't recall what he had actually said to them.
Did his disposition, his demeanor to you, play as someone who was or was not connected to what happened?
I don't really want to judge that. I treat my clients with respect and build a rapport with them, even for the short period of time that I was speaking with Brian. I wanted his trust for that short period of time so he understood what I was trying to do for him. I thought was in his best interest. I still believe what I'm doing for him even now is in his best interest. So I really wanted to build that rapport, and I don't question things like that.
We hope that they picked the right guy.
I said early on that we're not going to let any stone go unturned, and I meant that. And we're following up on everything, just like we're in this new phase now, and we're going to follow up to get to know who he is and everything about him that we can.
Brian's affect in general, it wasn't as if he came off, of course, as somebody seemingly outwardly crazy, but she said she noticed that he had a really weird food fetish. And she said it went beyond being vegan. He required his aunt and uncle to buy brand new pots and pans for him to eat out of because he refused to eat from anything that had meat ever cooked in it. And she said it seemed to be an OCD type of situation. She said otherwise he didn't seem that odd, but I spoke to another aunt by marriage who said that the murder suspect's father, Michael, came from a fairly big family that she said lived very close to the edge. They didn't pay a lot of attention to rules. They were a little bit wild. A couple of the uncles of the murder suspect, she said, served time in jail, but for minor, very minor offenses like gambling or things like that. But I got this sense from both these aunts that the family was pretty odd. And the father's family originally comes from Brooklyn. They later all migrated out to Vegas. And Brian's father, Michael, is the one that was kind of estranged from the rest of his siblings. And I also heard that he could be kind of difficult with his siblings. And I'm talking now again about the murder suspect's father.
Online profiles that appeared to be Brian from years ago started popping up.
Everything I've ever done makes no sense. How did things get this way? I'm stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing. I feel dirty, like there's dirt inside of my head, my mind. I feel no self-worth. I'm intelligent, but I feel the opposite. I am stuck in the depths of my mind where I have to constantly battle my demons. Am I here or am I fake? Now I look in the mirror and I see this sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man in the mirror. He is a complete disgrace. He doesn't even deserve to live. I remember when I was 15, I would wander alone at 2 a.m. Everything was so generic. Nowhere felt like home. I saw things that were not there, a different reality. I felt eerie and alone. I died during those nights. I felt like a criminal, but where was my record? It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged? No, all caps. Then why am I like this?
He was just your average guy. I met him through some friends, and they told me that he was a little weird. And he was a little socially awkward, I guess you could say. But he wasn't a bad guy. He needed a job, so I worked at a pizza shop at that time, and they were hiring. I said, yeah, he come on in and apply, and he did, and he got the job. So I worked with him for a little bit, but he was quiet.
What conversation like with him?
It was so long ago. It was like 2013, but he didn't have a girlfriend. I do remember that. And my wife went to school with him. They graduated together, and she doesn't remember him ever having a girlfriend, and I don't remember him ever having a girlfriend. And he didn't have many friends, so he would do anything to fit in, and would do he just wanted to be liked by everybody. But he wasn't a bad kid. He was all right. And I knew his sister. I went to school with his sister, and I knew his father worked for the school, and I believe his mother did too. But his family, they were all nice people, and his dad was always really nice to me, very polite. I never thought that he would do something like that. Yeah, he did use drugs. That's how I really know him too. He was a big heroin addict, and so was I. I got 6 years clean now. I work in treatment and everything, but back then I was using, and so that's how I know for a fact he was using. I've got high with him a couple times and used with him, and I remember one night we went out and his car broke down, and his dad had to come out, and he got pretty angry because his car broke down and everything, and we couldn't get what we needed that night. And you know, I knew other people that dealt drugs, and we would deliver drugs to him a lot. And so that's when I heard about this case. I haven't heard from him in so long. And then I heard about this, and it said that he was going to college. I said, I haven't heard from him. I guess that's what he's been doing. He must have cleaned up. I know he was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he really did. He cleaned up and was going to college all these years.
Ask you one last question. We've heard from people that he had a track record of being inappropriate, borderline offensive to women. Did you ever see that in any of your interactions with him and interactions with women?
Not in my time knowing him. I've never seen him ever act like that towards women. I've never seen him come off that way ever towards anybody.
Well, first of all, you know, our records show he was in our employment for 4 months, but he probably only worked about 20 days for us. And as far as filleting fish, he never got proficient at it. So we bring kids in and train them, and until they're good enough, we don't allow them to do customers' fish. So he probably only practiced filleting maybe 8 to 10 days out of those 20 days. Another part of their job is to be friendly to customers, to help people fish, to pick up paper and stay busy. This probably was his first job because he was only, I think, 16 at the time. So after he was here several times, it became obvious to me that this job just wasn't for him. He wasn't able to make eye contact with customers and be friendly to them. And he never got good enough for us to allow him to fillet customers' fish. So I talked to his direct supervisor, who already was on board and saw the situation. He talked to Brian, and really mutually they decided that that job was not for him.
Some things are a little odd with him. He was always like he had to be like the #1 person in the room.
Tom says he used to be around 300 pounds, then lost a lot of weight, and that wasn't the only difference.
My son said he changed a little bit and he got pretty aggressive with him and mean to him and stuff, and my son broke off relations with him. He just never seen him anymore.
The last time the Arntz family saw him was when Kohberger was working as a security guard at a local school a couple years back.
When we talked to him there, everything seemed, normal. He was polite and everything. It was very, very weird to hear this stuff. Very intelligent, and then, he would explain things in like a really odd way that had to be really sophisticated way of explaining stuff.
Just hung out and talked, and that's what it was. It wasn't anything crazy, just a typical friendship.
It's crazy when you sit there and you realize that the person that was in your parents' home, in your friend's home, you were in their car, you were in his house. I knew his mom. She was a substitute teacher at Pleasant Valley. Again, he obviously no longer has a Facebook, but they still allow you to filter old messages. Here's something. I invited him to a party back in 2014. He seemed fine. It's crazy just what can switch in someone's brain. The whole heroin incident, I didn't know that he was literally making me drive to get him heroin until Brendan told me. So I messaged him a pretty rotten message just because I was pissed. I didn't know there was fucking heroin in my car. But this was, again, 2013. I was 2 years, graduated from high school. He then said he was in rehab. He would randomly message me after that. This is him mentioning he wanted to study criminal justice. Again, back in 2013, he was already hoping to do that, and then that obviously fell through because he said he went to rehab. But apparently he went back at it, and again, in 2017, that's when it seemed like everything was fine and he was doing great for himself. So it was kind of crazy that this fucking happened. But yeah, this is also talking about, hanging out with Brian, chilling with them, and then Brandon said they're like not friends anymore. And this happened a lot because of what he was doing, his addiction, and he had some anger issues. I know he did kickboxing to kind of help with that, but.
Well, first of all, our records show he was in our employment for 4 months, but he probably only worked about 20 days for us. And as far as filleting fish, he never got proficient at it. So we bring kids in and train them, and until they're good enough, we don't allow them to do customers' fish. So he probably only practiced filleting maybe 8 to 10 days out of those 20 days. Another part of their job is to be friendly to customers, to help people fish, to pick up paper and stay busy. This probably was his first job because he was only, I think, 16 at the time. So after he was here several times, it became obvious to me that this job just wasn't for him. He wasn't able to make eye contact with customers and be friendly to them. And he never got good enough for us to allow him to fillet customers' fish. So I talked to his direct supervisor, who already was on board and saw the situation. He talked to Brian, and really mutually they decided that that job was not for him.
A female friend of Brian's named Bree comes forward and says Brian was really funny. He wasn't outgoing at all, but he also wasn't shy.
I used to go on night runs with him because I didn't want to go running at night by myself. So I would text him like, hey, you want to go for a run? We'd go for 6-7 mile runs at night. So when I saw who it was, I was just in complete shock.
This photo of Kohberger taken during a group project at DeSales University in 2019. Students who studied with him did say he was, quote, controlling during the group project.
Very much liked it when everybody in the room knew that he knew what was going on, but it wasn't enough that you knew that he knew. He had to make absolutely sure you understood that he was smart, that he had this intellectual capacity. Brian seemed like he was on the knife's edge between exhaustion and burnout, and at the time it was extremely difficult to tell which was which. Did notice that he became a little chattier, he became a little more animated. Mostly what I noticed though is he was always showing up a little late, and he was always showing up with a cup of coffee in hand. He seemed like he was more exhausted going into the tail end of the tour.
There were also other incidents that led up to this situation, even one at a bar where he was actually banned from the bar for his actions toward a female there. I think all of this speaks to possible, hatred toward women. I believe it was a true femicide situation. I think that he has struggled his whole life to really have acceptance. If indeed Brian Kohberger is found convicted of these crimes. That's what we're seeing with his background, and something that just built up inside of him, and he lashed out.
It appears that Brian wrote posts on Reddit asking for help researching why people commit crimes. Does this fact give more credence to the rumor that he is also Papa Rogers on Facebook? Research participation needed. My name is Brian, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime, with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still want to participate.
Jennifer Coffindaffer believes the mystery sleuth is Kohberger.
They love to reach out to the media. They love to reach out to police and sort of taunt. And it's part of their narcissistic behavior, believing they are not going to get caught, even dangling these carrots, just almost edging people to catch them.
Prosecutors, if they can link accounts from Facebook to Reddit that brag about all these things, and they're accurate, and they were well before that was made public, is that just sort of like the smoking gun?
I think it is. And look, here's what's important. Not just that it was braggadocio, not just that it was he had a keen interest in the case, but if it can be established that from the timing and the sequence that he knew things and he was publishing things on Reddit as these various people that he claimed to be in these chat rooms, if that can be established, Ashley, that he knew these things before police knew them, before they were publicly available, then those things are huge from an evidentiary standpoint. And so this reminds me a lot of, the BTK killer. Remember him, Ashley? It was his bragging. It was him mocking the police. It was him sending floppy disks to the police about the crimes that got him arrested. And that was his undoing. So these things can have enormous evidentiary value. These things, killers of this nature tend to want the attention. They tend to want to be the smartest person in the chat room, so to speak. And in this instance, this could very well be another linchpin in addition to the DNA, in addition to the cell towers, in addition to all the other things that the police currently had. This could also be one other thing. And as you say, Ashley, it could really carry the day.
A killer like this will, taunt in whatever methods available, whether it's a, Zodiac style, taunting that we saw using newspapers and so forth, or, some other forum like social media. It's also possible that, there's just other people out there that are arrogant and braggarts and so forth. But certainly narcissism is going to be a key feature of this kind of individual. And there was a certain pride that was in that statement of knowing with degree of certainty that would be consistent if indeed it's learned later on.
If I had one or two words to describe Maddie Mae, it would be just an angel, and that she just made me proud.
Ben Mogan, in describing the moment law enforcement told him they'd made an arrest in the case.
He said, Ben, this is the day that we've been waiting for.
Ben also describing his emotions while reading the evidence.
I broke down and cried. I could only take so much of that, and I cried. I still haven't read the rest of it.
Her and Ethan were together about a year, give or take some, whatever, but she really, when I went up there, I saw her just, a week before that. She changed a lot. She had a life. She got to see what it was to have a boyfriend to live with and have a real life. And she really turned around and was being really responsible, helping him out into the studies and stuff. I was really impressed. Whatever she wanted to do, she could do it.
If everybody was like Ethan Chapin in this world, it would be a better place. For sure.
Basketball coach and mentor, not surprised that he had defensive wounds.
I've tried not to think too much about the particulars of that night, but certainly Ethan was a protector, and he had everybody, everyone that he cared about, he had their back.
She was just such a good soul. She cared. She deeply cared about her friends and her family. And she would never hurt anybody. I don't understand who would want to do anything to any of these kids. They were all great, great kids, and they were all good friends, lifelong friends, even, aside from Ethan. And Ethan was such a great kid, too. I just want to say, I think that if somebody, and I think possibly they may have trusted somebody who knew the house well, somebody who knew them well. I will not take my final breath until this person is found and brought to justice for these kids, not just my daughter, but these kids and their families and their friends. We all deserve answers, and the person needs to be brought to justice.
I want to get the show on the road. I want to get to where we get to court.
November 13th, 2022 in Latah County, state of Idaho. Did willfully, unlawfully.
Do you understand the charge in count 1, burglary?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 2, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 3, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 4, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 5, murder in the first degree? Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
I'm ready for this to go on and lay out the case and let the community see what the evidence is. And then, let the cards fly where they're going to go. There's been a lot of weird processes, things that were done in a way that are there to help everybody and help the witnesses, the surviving witnesses. I'm just ready for the normal court process and normal justice. Lay it out, transparency. Everybody gets to see what their evidence is, what our evidence is, and then we let the jury members decide what's going to be real. You just can't hunt our babies. You just can't come to our state and hurt our people. It's unacceptable. We're a small state. but you're going to see how strong we are and how big we are when you mess with us. And we're going to put our foot down, and we're going to show the world, you know what, we hate all the bad things that are happening, but here in Idaho, we can control one thing, and you just can't hunt our babies down. That's just too much. The line's been crossed, and we're going to go there. I'm just one family, and they've made that very clear. You know, what you want, Steve, is just what you want. I'm trying to organize different families so we have one united voice, but that's not easy. But that's what we're working towards. And I know there's other families that feel like I do, but we don't want to get too washed up in the revenge factor. We want to remember these girls. We want to remember Ethan, and we want to make sure that when this is all said and done, that's the only people you think of. We want the defendant to just disappear, and all we remember is the beautiful lives that these people had. And then that's the best that we can do. All this media, all the stuff we're doing is so what we remember the victims and we forget who did this crime, which is very uncommon. Normally, we just talk about the person who does this crime. We'd like to turn that on its head, forget about him, and just remember these beautiful young souls.